Assistant Professor, Chaitanya Deemed University, Department of Pharmacy. So in the last session, we have discussed about aerosols, advantages, disadvantages, and various types of aerosols. And we have discussed about the propellants also. So in this session, I will discuss the remaining topics of the aerosols. So in the last session, we have discussed about the aerosol formulation. So in that we have the aerosol formulation, the main component is propellant. So that we have discussed in the last session. So here in this session, I will start with containers and the remaining formulation components. So containers, as the aerosol products have to be withstand high pressures. So container selection is very important, and most of the aerosol containers are prepared by glass and metals, various metals. So the selection of container depends on various factors like production method and type of aerosol system and the required pressure that has to be maintained to deliver the desired form of the product, and its aesthetic appearance and its cost. So based on these factors, we have to decide the suitable material for the containers. So they must be able to withstand the pressure as high. So containers, they must be able to withstand pressures as high as 140 to 180 pounds per square inch gauge at 130 degree Fahrenheit. And the different container materials that are used for aerosol containers, there are two categories like metals and glass are used, and in that metal also different metals can be used like tin plated steel, aluminium and stainless steel. And in the glass containers, uncoated glass and plastic coated glass can be used. Tin plated steel containers, it consists of a sheet of steel plate that is coated with tin by electrolytic process. The coated sheet is then fabricated into desired shape, and then whenever normally these tin sheets are coated to impart resistance to the tin sheets, as there is a chance of interaction of these containers with the product. In order to avoid the interaction with the product, so these tin sheets may be coated with different materials like oleoresins, phenolic, vinyl or epoxy materials. So the advantage of these tin plated containers is these are lightweight and inert, non-reactive, and they are also cost effective. And another advantage, another is these tin plated containers are used for topical aerosols. For the fabrication of tin plated sheets, so normally welding process is used. So another advanced technique may be used nowadays like sardonic system or Konowald systems are used in place of welding. So next type of containers is aluminium containers. So these aluminium containers are used for inhalation and topical aerosols. So these are lightweight and cheap compared to the other metals. And also compared to glass containers, these aluminium are less fragile and less incompatibility due to its non-reactive nature. And these aluminum containers offer greater resistance to corrosion. These aluminum containers are prepared by impact extrusion process, but the disadvantage with these aluminum containers are with pure water and pure ethanol, there may be chance of corrosion of metal. That is, aluminium may react with water or pure ethanol, results in corrosion. So resistance can be improved by coating the inside of the container with organic coatings like phenolic, vinyl or epoxy and polyamide resins. So with this coating we can add resistance to the container so that it may be made inert. The main advantage with aluminum containers is its lightweight and its cost, that is a cheap cost. And another type of metal container that are used for aerosol formulation package is stainless steel containers. So these stainless steel containers are mostly used for inhalation aerosols. Advantage of stainless steel containers are these are extremely strong compared to aluminum and tin plated containers. So these are extremely strong enough to withstand the high pressures, and these are mostly steel containers. Stainless steel containers are resistant to many material. They won't react with any material, and so these are non-reactive, so there is no need of any internal coating inside the container. That is the advantage of this steel container. And coming to the disadvantages, the cost. These are compared to other metals, stainless steel is high cost, and it cannot be easily fabricated into desired shape. So as it is very strong metal, it cannot be fabricated into desired shape. That is the disadvantage of these stainless steel containers. Next one, glass containers. So glass, these are preferred because of its aesthetic appearance, as these are transparent and look elegant, and product can be seen from outside, and their absence of incompatibility. That is the reason these glass containers are preferred, and these containers are limited to the products having low pressure, as glass cannot withstand high pressures. So the products which require low pressure to deliver the content, so for that products only we can use glass containers. And the products which require low percentage of propellant, that also can be packed into glass containers. Now, most of these glass containers are used for topical and meter dose inhalation aerosols. These glass containers also are of two types. That is, first one, uncoated glass containers. These uncoated glass containers, advantage is these are less cost. That means there is no need of any additional coating, so cost effective, and high clarity, and contents can be viewed at any time. So during the usage, the contents can be seen from outside due to their transparency. And the next type of glass container is plastic coated glass containers. So these glass containers are coated with plastic to prevent the glass from shattering into fragments in the event of breakage, and also to impart the resistance to the container, and also to make the container non-reactive with the product. These glass containers can be coated with plastic, and sometimes this plastic coating may protect the product from the outside light. Valves are used to open and close the container, or to deliver the product from the containers. These valves are used. By opening and closing the valve, we can we can deliver the product from the container, and these are capable of delivering the content in the desired form, such as spray, foam, solid, stream. So in the desired form, the product can be delivered from the container outside by using the desired valves, and it can deliver a given amount of medicament. So by using special valves like metering valves, we can deliver the required amount of drug from the container. These valves are also of two types: continuous spray valve and metering valves. So this diagram shows the different parts that are involved in the valve assembly. So first one is actuator and mounting cap, valve stem, gasket, spring, housing, and dip tube. So these are the different parts that are included in the valve assembly. Together with these parts, valve can deliver the product from the container. First one, continuous spray valve. These valves are used for topical aerosols. where the product has to be delivered in a continuous spray mode. This valve assembly consists of different parts as I explained in the previous slide. So that is, first one is ferrule or mounting cap, valve body or housing, stem, dip tube, gasket and spring. First one, ferrule or mounting cap. It is used to attach the valve to the container. It keeps the valve in the place, and it is made up of tin plated steel, aluminum or brass. So under the underside of the valve cup is coated with single or double epoxy or vinyl resin to impart resistance to the mounting cap with the formulation components. Next one, valve body or housing. So it is made up of nylon or derling and contains a opening at the point of attachment of dip tube. Normally the size of the orifice size of the housing varies from 0.013 to 0.080 inch in diameter. With the stem and the orifice of the housing will determine the form of delivery, that is, in which form we want to deliver the product. That will be decided by the orifice and stem diameter, orifice size and stem diameter. And this housing, it is a link between the stem, actuator and dip tube. Next one, stem. It is made from nylon or derling, brass and stainless steel, and the orifice of stem ranges from 0.013 to 0.030 inch, and it supports the wall. It places the wall in its place. Below the wall, this stem is present. So from this stem, product will be delivered into the valve chamber. Next one, dip tube. So dip tube, it brings the product from the container to the valve chamber. It is made up of polyethylene or polypropylene. So inner diameter of the dip tube ranges from 0.120 to 0.125 inch, and the inner diameter of the dip tube depends on the type of delivery, form of delivery, and also the viscosity of the product concentrate. So that decides the inner diameter of the dip tube. And however, for capillary dip tube, inner diameter is 0.050 inch, and for highly viscous product it is 0.195 inch. That is, based on the viscosity of the product, the inner dimensions of the dip tube have to be determined. Next one, gasket. So it is made up of Buna N and neoprene rubber. So it is used to place the wall in place, and also it is used to prevent leakage from the container. Next one, spring. It is made up of stainless steel, and it is used to hold the gasket in place, and also it is used to replace the actuator after its actuation. So to replace the actuator in its place, spring will help. Next type of valve is metering valves. So these are used for dispensing of potent medication. As potent medications, in the delivery of potent medication, so amount of dose is very important. So to deliver the potent medication in a accurate amount, these metering valves are used. So these operate on the principle of chamber, whose size determines the amount of medication depends. That means the chamber, the valve chamber, the size of the valve chamber will decides the amount of drug to be dispensed. Next, approximately 50 to 150 milligrams plus or minus 10% of liquid materials can be dispensed at one time with the use of such valves. And next one, actuators. So actuators, these are specially designed buttons which helps in delivering the drugs in desired form, that is spray, wet stream, foam or solid stream. So these actuators are used to open and close the valve. So upon actuating these buttons, the valve will deliver the drug from the container. So next, types of actuators. There are different types of actuators based on the desired form of the delivery. So those include spray actuators, foam actuators, solid stream actuators and special actuators. Spray actuators, it can be used for topical preparations such as antiseptics, local anesthetics and spray on bandages, etc. So these actuators deliver the product in the form of fine spray. So especially these spray actuators are useful in topical aerosols preparations where we need to deliver the product in a thin fine spray. It allows the stream of product concentrate and propellant to pass through the various openings and dispense as fine spray. And foam actuators, so it consists of large orifice which ranges from 0.070 to 0.125 inch in diameter, and these actuators deliver the product concentrate in the form of foam. Solid stream actuators, so these actuators are required for dispensing semi-solid products such as ointments, and these two type of actuators also used for topical aerosol preparations. Next one, special actuators. So these are used for a specific purpose. It delivers the medicament to the appropriate site of action such as throat, nose, dental and eyes, etc. So whenever we need a targeted drug delivery, in that cases these special actuators are used to deliver the product to the targeted site. Next, meter dose inhalers. So meter dose inhalers, these are used to minimize the number of administration errors. So where we need a specific amount of dose without wastage of the drug need to be delivered, in that cases these meter dose inhalers are very useful. So it is to improve the drug delivery of aerosolized particles into the nasal passageway and respiratory tract. Advantages of meter dose inhalers: it delivers the specified amount of dose, and these are very portable and compact and quick to use, and there is no contamination of the product by manual contact, and easy to get the dose responsibility. With the meter dose inhalers we can achieve dose to dose reproducibility. And coming to the disadvantages of meter dose inhalers: low lung deposition and high pharyngeal deposition. As the drug is not entered into the systemic circulation, so most of the drug may not reach to the lung, and most of the drug may be absorbed or located at the pharyngeal area. So that is a disadvantage of meter dose inhalers. And next one, coordination of meter dose inhalation actuation and patient inhalation is needed. So whenever inhalation is actuated, so the patient has to be inhale the drug immediately, otherwise drug will be wasted. So patient coordination is very important in case of meter dose inhalers. So these are the figures, some of the figures that shows the meter dose inhalers. So this figure will shows the assembly of meter dose inhalers. So here in this canister drug will be placed, the drug is present and it is a plastic holder, and in the canister there is a mixture of propellant and drug in the form of suspension. So it is a metering valve which measures the required amount of dose. So this is mouthpiece, this is mouthpiece, and upon actuation of this valve, so the dose will be delivered through this mouthpiece. This valve is actuated, so the drug will be delivered, and immediately the patient has to inhale the drug. Then only the drug will be properly utilized and inhaled. And these are the some examples of marketed pharmaceutical aerosol products. That is, brand name is Flovent Discus. It consists drug fluticasone, which is used for asthma, Advil, fluticasone, and Solmetrol, used for asthma, Aerobid, flunisolide, asthma, Quad, beclomethasone for asthma, and next, formulation of aerosols. So the main components of in the formulation of pharmaceutical aerosol is product concentrate and propellant. So propellant, these are responsible to develop a required pressure inside the container, which is used to dispense the drug from the container. Normally propellants are used to develop the vapor pressure inside the container. So coming to product concentrate, so it consists of active ingredient, one or mixture of active ingredients along with the other necessary ingredients like excipients. So the composition of product concentrate changes according to the composition of aerosol or type of aerosol, whether it is a suspension, emulsion or solution. Based on that, composition and necessary other excipients are changed. The particle size of the insoluble product concentrate ingredients should be in the range of 1 to 10 micrometers in case of inhalation aerosols, whereas in case of topical aerosol systems, the particle size range may be between 40 to 50 micrometers. So the components of product concentrate include vehicle, solvents and co-solvents, surfactants, buffering agents, wetting agents, humectants. Coming to vehicles, commonly water is used as vehicle because of its good solubility and compatibility properties, but water is not suitable for the drugs which are moisture sensitive, that is the drugs which can go hydrolytic degradation. So for those drugs, water cannot be used as vehicles. Other organic solvents or inorganic solvents can be used in place of water as vehicles. So normally liquid is used as vehicle, but other vehicles like in the form of solid, gas or organic or inorganic vehicles also be used. Next, solvents and co-solvents. These are used to increase the solubility of poorly soluble drugs, and these are also used to enhance the antimicrobial effectiveness or stability of the drug, and also in some cases these are also used to mask unpleasant taste and unpleasant odor of the drug. And examples of solvents and co-solvents: ethanol, glycerol, propylene glycol. Surfactants are included in the formulation of water-based or emulsion system. These surfactants produce a satisfactory homogeneous dispersion or emulsion. So surfactants having less water solubility and more non-aqueous solubility are mostly preferred for aerosol preparations. So these are used in the concentration of 0.5 to 2%. Example include sorbitol, ester of palmitic acid, stearic acid and oleic acid. Buffering agents. So buffering agents, normally these are weak acids or bases. These are used to maintain the pH. So some drugs require a specific pH for their stability. So in that pH only they will be stable. So to maintain the pH at the desired range, these buffering agents are used. As pH may influence the stability, compatibility and solubility properties of some drugs, it is necessary to maintain the pH in the desired range. Examples of buffering agents that are used in the pharmaceutical aerosols are ammonium hydroxide and ammonium chloride, and another example is acetic acid and sodium acetate. Next, wetting agents. So wetting agents are used to decrease the surface tension between liquids and solids. So by decreasing the surface tension, these will form excessive foaming.
and if these wetting agents are used in high concentration, they may lead to defluctuation and instability due to the sedimentation of solid particles. Examples of wetting agents used in the pharmaceutical aerosols are polysorbates, twins, and sorbitan esters, spans, poloxamers, and sodium lauryl sulfate. Humectants. So humectants are used to prevent loss of moisture from skin by keeping skin hydrated. So some topical aerosols, whenever they are applied onto the skin, immediately they will dry. To prevent the dryness, these humectants are used. So these are used in the aqueous suspensions and emulsions for external application. So they prevent drying of product after application. Generally hygroscopic excipients used in the concentration of 5%. Examples of humectants are propylene glycol, glycerol, and polyethylene glycol. Next, coming to the types of aerosol systems. So pharmaceutical aerosol may be dispensed as fine mist, wet spray, quick breaking foam, stable foam, and semi-solids, etc. So the type of system selection depends on different factors like its physical, chemical, and pharmacological properties of the drug and its site of application. Coming to the types of aerosol systems, there are different types of aerosol systems. Solution system, these are further divided into two-phase system and three-phase system. In two-phase system, it consists of product concentrate along with the propellant, and three-phase system along with the product concentrate, propellant, another aqueous phase also present. Next type is suspension or dispersion system, in which the solid particles are finely dispersed in the liquid phase. And next one, foam systems. Foam systems are further divided into four categories: aqueous stable foams, non-aqueous stable foams, quick breaking foams, thermal foams. Another type is intranasal aerosols. Next, coming to the manufacture of pharmaceutical aerosols. So there are two methods that are used for the manufacture of pharmaceutical aerosols: cold fill process and pressure fill process. Cold fill process, the apparatus used for this process is cold filling apparatus. This apparatus consists of insulated box fitted with copper tubings, and the tubings are coiled to enhance the cooling area, exposed cooling area. The insulated box should be filled with dry ice or acetone, which is used as a cooling medium. The apparatus can be operated with or without metering valves. Normally, the pharmaceutical aerosols which are formulated using hydrocarbon propellants, those cannot be filled into aerosol containers by using this apparatus, because large amount of propellant escapes out and vaporizes. So this may lead to formation of explosive mixture, as hydrocarbon propellants are explosive in nature. So this may lead to explosion. And fluorocarbons vapors do not form any explosive or flammable mixture, though their vapors are heavier than air. So these fluorocarbons and chlorofluorocarbons, hydrochlorofluorocarbon propellants are suitable to fill with this cold filling apparatus. Coming to the method of preparation of aerosols by cold filling process. First, these are non-aqueous products and products which can withstand low temperatures of -40°F are used in this method, because in this method both the product concentrate and propellant has to be cooled down. So the materials which can withstand these low temperatures about -40°F can be used to manufacture by this method. The product concentrate is chilled to a temperature of minus 40 degree Fahrenheit and filled into already chilled containers. Then the chilled propellant is added completely in 1 or 2 stages depending on the amount. So in another method, both the product concentrate and propellant in separate pressure vessel are cooled to minus 40 degree Fahrenheit and then filled into chilled container. The valve is after filling the product concentrate and propellant into the container, then valve is placed and crimped onto the container. Then these filled containers, they are tested for leakage and strength of container is carried out by passing the container into a heated water bath where the contents of the container are heated to 130 degree Fahrenheit. After this, the containers are air-tight, capped and labeled. So the various units used in the cold filling methods are unscrambler, air cleaner, concentrate filler, propellant filler, valve placer, valve crimper, water bath, labeler, coder and packing table. So these are the different units that are used while cold filling process. So advantage of this cold filling process is compared to pressure filling process, it is easy and it is suitable for the aerosol preparations which contain liquefied gas propellants other than hydrocarbons. And disadvantages, as it involves cooling of product concentrate and propellant, the aqueous based systems like water. So if the product formulation contains water, it is not suitable to fill those type of aerosols with this method, as water may be converted to ice upon cooling. So aqueous products, emulsions and those products adversely affected by cold temperatures cannot be filled this method. Advantages, it is easy process and the aerosol formulations which include liquefied gas propellants other than hydrocarbons can be filled using this method. And disadvantages include aqueous products, that is water based systems. The formulations which contain water cannot be filled by using this method because water may convert into ice. And emulsions and those products which adversely affect by cold temperatures cannot be filled by using this method. So this is the apparatus used for cold filling process. And next process, pressure filling process. So this method is commonly used than the cold filling method. So it is normally this process is carried out at room temperature only. There is no need of cold temperatures. It is used to fill aerosols containing hydrocarbon propellants also. So along with the other propellants like chlorofluorocarbons, hydrofluorocarbons and compressed gases. So hydrocarbons also can be filled into the aerosol containers by using pressure filling apparatus. Coming to the procedure of pressure fill process. So in this method, first the product concentrate is filled into the container at room temperature. Then valve is placed on the container and crimped. Through the opening of the valve, the propellant under pressure is filled. Since the opening of the valve is smaller in size, normally ranging from 0.018 to 0.030 inches, so the size of the orifice may slows the filling process, but the process may be speed up by using rotary filling machines and new filling heads where the propellants are filled through valve stem. Next, the entrapped air inside the container and air present in headspace is removed before filling the propellant to protect the product from getting adversely affected by the air. The various units used in pressure filling process are unscrambler, air cleaner, concentrate filler, wall placer, purger, wall crimper, propellant filler, water bath, labeler, coder and packing table. Advantages of pressure filling. So first advantage is solutions, emulsions, suspensions can be filled by this method. As cold filling process we cannot use for water based systems, and contamination due to moisture is less, and high production speed can be achieved by using advanced techniques like rotary machines, and loss of propellant is less compared to cold filling process. And disadvantages: certain types of metering valves can be handled only by the cold filling process or through use of an undercap filler and wall crimper, and process is slow than the cold filling method as the propellant has to be filled into the container through the wall orifice. So that limits the speed of the. Next, coming to quality control test of pharmaceutical aerosols. So these quality control tests for aerosol include different tests like a testing of propellants, valves, actuators and dip tubes, a testing of containers, weight checking, leak testing, spray testing. First one, propellant, testing of propellants. So for testing of propellants, vapor pressure and density of the propellant are determined and compared with the specifications, standard specifications. The parameter of propellant that are determined during the quality control of aerosol is first identification test. Identification of propellant can be determined by gas chromatography and infrared spectroscopy, and purity and acceptability can be determined by moisture, presence of moisture, halogen and non-volatile components in the propellants. Next quality control test, testing of valves, actuators and dip tubes. The performance of valves, actuators and dip tubes are to be determined. For the testing of valves, normally sampling is done according to the standard procedures as found in military standards. The objective of this test is to determine magnitude of valve delivery and degree of uniformity between individual valves. For this testing of performance of valves, so standard test solutions were proposed to rule out variation in valve delivery depending on various pharmacopoeias. Testing procedure for valve, the sample size of valve is 25. Those are randomly selected from a batch, and these 25 valves are placed on containers filled with specific test solutions. Then actuator is attached to the valves which is having orifice 0.020 inch. Then the container temperature is maintained to 25 plus or minus 1 degree centigrade. Then valve is actuated to full extent for 2 seconds, and then the weight of the container is weighed, and then again valve is actuated for 2 seconds and then the weight of the container is weighed. So the difference between the initial and final weights represents the delivery of the drug in milligrams. So this procedure is repeated for a total of 2 individual deliveries from each 25 units, valve units. So the valve delivery per actuation in microliters can be calculated by using formula individual delivery weight in milligrams divided by specific gravity of the test solution. So that will give you the valve delivery per actuation in microliters. So the acceptance criteria for the valve is if the delivery amount is 54 microliters or less, then the acceptance limit will be plus or minus 15%. If the delivery weight is 55 to 200 microliters, then the acceptance limit will be plus or minus 10%. Then testing of containers. So containers are examined for defects in lining, as lining is very important to protect the product concentrate interactions with the containers. So linings are examined if there are any defects. And quality control aspects include degree of conductivity of electric currents as measure of exposed metals, and glass containers are examined for flaws or cracks. Next, weight checking. It is done by periodically adding to the filling line the tape empty aerosol containers, which after filling with the concentrate are removed and weighed. That will give you the net weight of the product concentrate. The same procedure is used for checking the weight of the propellants being added. So in the same way, before filling the propellant, the tape containers are placed in the filling line and then filled with propellants, and they are reweighed. The difference in the initial and final weights gives the net weight of the propellant. Next, leak testing. It is a mean of checking crimping of wall and detect the defective containers due to leakage. So this leak testing is used to identify the leaks in the walls. It is done by measuring the crimps dimension and comparing. So final testing of wall closure is done by passing the filled containers through the water bath. After filling the containers with the product concentrate along with the propellant, the final container along with the valve assembly is passed through the water bath. Any leakage is there, that will be identified. Spray testing. So most of pharmaceutical aerosols are 100% spray tested. So it serves to clear the dip tube of pure propellant and pure concentrate. So during filling the containers, the dip tube may be filled with either pure propellant or pure drug concentrate. In order to remove these propellant or product concentrate from the dip tube, spray test is necessary to remove these pure propellant and drug from the dip tube. And to check the defects in the walls and spray pattern also, this spray testing is used. Next, evaluation test for pharmaceutical aerosols. The first one, flammability and combustibility. These are checked by flash point method and flame projection. Next, physicochemical characteristics are determined by vapor pressure, density, moisture content, identification of propellants, and performance can be determined by aerosol wall discharge rate, spray pattern, dosage with metered walls, net contents, foam stability, particle size determination, and biological testing is determined by therapeutic activity and toxicity studies. Flammability and combustibility. Flash point. So to determine the flash point, the apparatus used is tag open cup apparatus. So in this test, the product is first chilled to -25 °F and the test liquid temperature is, then it is filled into apparatus. Then the temperature of the test liquid is increased slowly, and the temperature at which the vapor starts ignite, that is called as flash point. Next test, flame projection test. In this test, the product is sprayed for about 4 seconds onto a open flame, and the extension of flame is measured with a ruler and is noted in centimeters. Physicochemical characteristics. The various physicochemical characteristics of pharmaceutical aerosols are determined. That is vapor pressure, that is determined by pressure gauge and can puncturing device. Density can be determined by hydrometer, pycnometer. Moisture can be determined by Kohl-Fisher method and gas chromatography. Identification of propellants can be determined by gas chromatography and infrared spectroscopy. Next, performance of aerosols. So in that, the various parameters that are determined are aerosol wall discharge rate. So content of the aerosol product of known weight is discharged for specific period of time. By reweighing the container after the time limit, the change in the initial and final weight dispensed gives the discharge rate. Next, spray pattern. The method is based on the impingement of spray on piece of paper that has been pre-treated with dye-top mixture. The particles that strikes the paper cause the dye to go into solution and to be absorbed onto paper, giving a record of spray for comparison purpose. That's all for now. Hope you understand it. We'll discuss more in the upcoming sessions. Thank you.